6. What we're gonna do is just a quick recap. There's no highlight reel. There's no power ranking. We're gonna just do a quick recap and then a schedule, and look at a couple standings down towards the middle of the season. There's some playoff implications going on, and we're gonna look at some stats. That's what we're gonna do. We're week 6. Apologize. Over the last 2 weeks, I've not had a broadcast. I was busy, man. Busy. First wasn't feeling good, and then got busy. There's things going on in life I had to take care of. So now let's look at the schedule for week 6. This is when games are counted, and then this is also where every game has some kind of playoff implication. We had the Falcons and Saints. That game has yet to be played. There were 7 games played this week. The Falcons and Saints. The Falcons are 1-4. The Saints are 4-1, and the Saints are looking to kind of get a good hold on that NFC South division. The New York Jets and Washington Redskins. It was the Redskins. They improved to 4-2 with a win over the Jets, who are now 3-2. Pittsburgh Steelers rebounded after an embarrassing defeat to the Baltimore Ravens, being shut out. They rebound and they win against the Arizona Cardinals. The Pittsburgh Steelers are now 5-1. The Cardinals, with that loss, is 4-2. The Minnesota Vikings and the Kansas City Chiefs. It was a close 3-point ball game. The visitors, the Kansas City Chiefs, prevail, and they're undefeated. And like I said earlier this season, this is a team to look out for. They're 5-0 now with that victory. And the Vikings, they're now actually the Chiefs are 6-0, and the Vikings. Let me see if I got that record right. Chiefs are 6-0, and the Vikings are 3-2. So it was a great football game, 5-0 versus 3-1. But the Chiefs remain undefeated with that win. They're 6-0. The Cincinnati Bengals and the Buffalo Bills. That game will be played in Buffalo, where the Bengals, they're headed into that game with an 0-5 winless record. The Bills, the opposite, 5-0. They're looking to go 6-0 with the Kansas City Chiefs. The Lions and the Bears, the NFC North matchup. That records is Bears 1-4. The Lions 0-5. So the battle of the basement right there between those two football teams. The Broncos and the Browns. Denver Broncos coming to the game. They will be trying to get a win right here. They're 3-2, and the Browns are 0-5. The Browns look to try to, get off of that winless record. They're 0-5. They have to get a win. The Texans and the Jacksonville Jaguars. That game did not disappoint in a great AFC matchup, a divisional matchup it was. But it was the Jacksonville Jaguars losing at home against the Houston Texans. The Texans, another good team, another team you got to look out for. And they improved their record to 4-3. The Jacksonville Jaguars, and they're now 2-5 outside looking in. The Dolphins and the Tennessee Titans. It should be a great matchup. The Dolphins are 3-1. The Titans are 2-2. Titans looking to win a game at home. The Panthers and the Seahawks. Another good football game we should be keeping an eye on. The Panthers are looking to get a winning record. They're 2-2. The Seahawks are 4-1. So it's a great matchup there. Cam Newton and Russell Wilson. It is the Chargers, or it was the Chargers. They defeat the Green Bay Packers. Another road victory that we have seen this week. The Chargers are now 4-2. The Packers, without loss, are now 2-4. The Ravens and 49ers, a great matchup it was. It was a defensive struggle, but it was the Baltimore Ravens, another visited team, winning. And now they improved their record of 4-2. Over the 49ers are now 2-4. We have the Colts and the Patriots. This is another good matchup that you want to keep an eye on. It's a primetime Sunday night football game. And the New England Patriots are 2-2. The Colts are 1-4. Both teams underperforming at this point of the season so far. The New York Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles, they played to one of the most exciting games this season. It was 43-42, a shootout at Philadelphia Lincoln Park Stadium. But it was the home team winning for a change. It was the Eagles. They hold on to defeat the New York Giants in a tight contest. It was a great battle, but it was the Eagles going to 4-3. But the New York Giants now 1-6, not looking good for the New York Giants. Now let's look at the standings. Let's look right into that. See what teams are doing good and what teams aren't, and what teams are kind of like in the middle of the pack. Let's first of all look at the divisions, and then we're going to look at the whole picture, the playoff picture, very, very early in this season. AFC North, Pittsburgh Steelers are 5-1, boy, and the Baltimore Ravens are 4-2. But both teams on the bottom are winless. That's the Bengals and Browns are 0-5. The NFC South, the AFC South, no winning records. Well, there was, because the Titans, they're going to be playing the game, and probably they're going to win. They're 2-2. And the Jacksonville Jaguars are 2-4. The Texans are 3-3, and the Colts are 1-4. In the AFC East, the Bills undefeated at 5-0. The Dolphins 4-1. New England Patriots, they're 2-2. The Jets are 2-3. AFC West, this is probably the most talented. Not probably. This is the most talented division, and obviously the most competitive division. Every team in this division has a winning record, and two of them are undefeated, and that is the Oakland Raiders are 5-0, the Chiefs 6-0, and it was the Chargers. They're 4-2, and they're 2 games above 500. The Broncos are 1 game above 500. They're 3-2 with a winning record. In the NFC South, the Minnesota Vikings are 3-2. The Packers are 2-4. The Bears are 1-4, and the Lions are winless at 0-5. In the NFC South, the Saints are 4-1. The Buccaneers 3-2. Panthers 2-2. The Falcons, they're just 1-4. NFC East, the Washington Redskins, they have a half-game lead over the Dallas Cowboys. They're 4-2. The Cowboys are 3-2. The Eagles are 3-3. The New York Giants struggling now. They're 1-5. The NFC West, the Arizona Cardinals have a 4-2 record. The Seahawks lead that division by half a game right now. They're 4-1, and it is the 49ers. They're 2-4, and the Rams are winless at 0-5. Now let's look at the AFC picture. This is obviously early in the season, not even midway yet, but this is where you can start getting a look of who are the better teams and the teams that are in the middle of the pack. Let's look at the Kansas City Chiefs. They have won the most games so far this season. They're 6-0. They're on top of the division, on top of the AFC, and perhaps atop of the whole NFL. They're 6-0. They're being defeating their teams by a very good margin. Look at the points allowed, only 94, and they've scored over 200 points so far this season. And they're 6-0. In that same division as the Oakland Raiders, if the playoffs would begin now, they will be the 5th seed. The Raiders, however, are the second best team. They're 5-0. The Buffalo Bills are the 3rd best team. They're 5-0 as well. And if the playoffs will begin, they will be the 2nd seed team and a bye week. The Pittsburgh Steelers from the AFC North, they are 5-1. If the playoffs will begin, they will be the 3rd seed. The Ravens, they're 4-2. And if the playoffs will begin, they will be the 6th and final seed. The Chargers are 4-2 as well. And that is pretty much your wrap-up of the top teams. Well, we haven't mentioned the Miami Dolphins. They're leading the AFC East. And they will be, actually the Bills are in the AFC East. So let's look at the division leaders. It's the Chiefs, Bills, Steelers, and the Houston Texans. So they'll be in the playoffs at the 4th seed if the playoffs would begin now. So let's look at the NFC. The NFC has the Saints on top. They're 4-1 along with the Seahawks. Those two teams will have the bye weeks if the playoffs will begin. And then the Redskins, they're 4-2. They'll be the 3rd seed. And the Vikings, they're 3-2. They will be the 4th seed. The 5th seed would be the Arizona Cardinals at 4-2. And the Buccaneers and Cowboys and Eagles, they will all be competing for that 6th and final seed if the playoffs will begin. Now, let's look at the stats. Now you can have a figure out a good look of who's going to be the leader in the MVP conversation and who's really being a factor. Let's look at the awards first. for the last 3 weeks that we have not broadcast. We had the rewards going to the Cardinals. David Johnson, the running back, he had over 200 yards for week 3. He was the offensive player of the week that week. And then defensive player was Alexander's. We had the Browns defensive player, Dante Whitner. He was the defensive player of the week for week 3. And Marcus Mariota for the Tennessee Titans, offensive player of the week for week 3. Week 4, Russell Wilson was the offensive player of the week for the NFC. And the NFC defensive reward case, that goes to Anthony. And AFC, Savage. He was the quarterback for the Texans, and he was the offensive player of the week. Defensive player of the week that week was Smith with 3 interceptions. Week 5, Cousins for the Redskins, 4 touchdowns and over 390 yards. He was the offensive player of the week. Alexander's again was the defensive player of the week for the Buccaneers. He had 5 picks in that game. AFC, you had the Robinson, the receiver for the Chiefs, over 200 yards receiving, and then 18 tackles for Perriman for the Chargers. He was the defensive player on the AFC side of that week. Quick stats, and let's look at the leaders. And I'm going to give you a top 3. By yards in the passing category is Alex Smith for the undefeated Oakland Raiders. He's going to surpass the 2,000 yard mark probably this week, and he has thrown for 18 touchdowns, 7 picks, and a very good rating at 122.4. Alex Smith. Eli Madden, second on the list. He's thrown for 1,957 yards, 14 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, 88.0 passer rating. And Russell Wilson has a 146.4 passer rating, playing very good this season. He's thrown only 3 picks at 7 touchdowns, and it has thrown for over 1,700 yards. Russell Wilson is a MVP candidate so far. Now let's look at the rushing category. David Johnson, we mentioned his name several times in the reward. He has over 100 yards rushing games a couple times. Let's see. He has 104 attempts for 559 yards. Is a 5.4 yard rushing average, but he has 10 touchdown runs. Murray for the undefeated Raiders, 556 yards, 5 touchdowns, and Adrian Peterson wraps it up, 544 yards and 4 touchdowns, averaging over 100 yards per game. And the receiving numbers, to see who's on top, is Mike Evans, 679 yards. And remember, we have played 6 and 5 games this season. You know, not every team has played their 6th game. So he's averaging over 100 yards per game. He has 135.8 yards per game and 5 touchdowns. Thomas for the Raiders is averaging 120 yards per game. He has 600 yards and 18 catches, 8 touchdowns. And Diggs, the rookie, probably going to be the rookie of the year. Maybe in the conversation. 26 catches for 554 yards and 6 touchdowns. We're not going to look at the defensive stats, although I would like to do so. Let's quickly look at the team stats. The number 1 leader in the offensive category is the Oakland Raiders. They're number 1. They're averaging over 40 points a game, and they have the number 1 offense. And in the passing numbers, they're second, and in rushing, the Oakland Raiders are 5th. Defense. The best defense is the Miami Dolphins, then come the New England Patriots, and the Tennessee Titans. Lastly but not least, let's look at do we have the MVP? No, we don't have the MVP race. So, let's look at some inside numbers. Red zone efficiency. Still the Seahawks and Redskins perfect so far this season. And inside the red zone situations. Turnovers is the Chiefs. They're undefeated, 6-0 with 18 plus on the turnover difference. That's my recap for today. We'll see you again probably week 7, and we'll talk to you then. You're listening to a little recap for Madden Elite Gamers. Thank you.